normally, we have just a space for the shop to spread itself on the ground level. But in this case, every level can be the display for every shop. And this is when the building has finished. And in this moment, there was no shop. So I asked my student to come and tangle on the building to show the concept. Okay, next point I would like to show is about the roof. This is the first project I begin to think about the roof. The project is situated in the mountainside in Japan, and we were required to make the pitched roof for the scenery. And what I was thinking of is to create everything out of the roof principle. And at that time, I was thinking of the roof. Roof is something is create the space in between the one continuous line, like this. And when we continue the same process, we can get something like an inverted tree. And this space will be each space required for the house. This is the house. And these are the how to say, unfolded surface of each rooms, like it seems to be like a clothes. But in plan, since I used the two-dimensional curvature, combining in this direction and that direction, x and y, so in the plan, it looks like very normal. But in the section, it goes like this, and the space inside will be something like the shell. And those shell-like space is get together in one roof shape. Sorry. That's what I have proposed at the time. And next project is also related to the roof, but in different way. And I was asked by the Japanese house company, big house company, to design the prototype of the house for one family. And at that time, and also they required me to use something like roof shape. And what I was thinking is, as I introduced in the beginning, and I'd like to make a house which enables us to living in the roof as a part of the nature. And what I did is to make several individual boxes and divide those spaces, softly divide by the valley line of the roof. So the relationship between the person, each person, is separated in the upper part, but connected somehow in the lower part. So they can feel the separation and at the same time the connection. The section diagram will be like this. So they can feel the oneness, but also they can feel the separation. And this same model can be adapted into many type of living, including the sharing house or something like that. And the realization of this project was as a pavilion for an art event in Yokohama, near Tokyo. And the pavilion is something like this. If you can take a very low position, you can see the next room, but normally you cannot see the next space. But interesting point of this house is when you stand on certain room, you can see the next room like a next house through the exterior. But if you talk loud, you can hear each other because the space is connected. Okay, and same kind of thinking was adapted into a bigger scale in housing project consists of 12 houses in Tokyo. And this time I also adapt the system like a mountain or the grand shape, which makes suitable volume among the small volumes of the neighborhood, which is something like this. Very small pitched roof house was surrounded this site. So I make this kind of shape. And also, this volume is surrounded by the rich grand shape. So I intended to make something related to the grand shape, like this. And this grand shape-like volume contains the small street or the way to reach to each individual apartment. So you can enter from here and go up to the next, and go up to the next, and go up to the next. So you can climb up to the third level, which is like a village, or like a small path inside the village. And the interior space is consists of the lines directly visible from also in the inside. This is the valley line of the roof, and these are the folded line of the walls. So these lines softly divide the space to the next. This is the bathroom, and etc. And on the second floor, you can see the stair shape even in the inside, which is dividing the kitchen and the bedroom or something. Or you can see this kind of thing on even the ground level. And I made it with the black concrete, which can be created mixture of the black powder, and the site excavated to find out the ancient ruins of this kind of things, like 10,000 years ago. So I would like to express that kind of power of the ground. So I take this color and the shape and thinking. This is another sample using the roof shape in different way. And this is situated in north part of Japan, which is famous for its snow, very heavy snow. So at that time, I choose to make a roof-like shape by means of the volume of the housing apartment, so that people can protect it from the snow under the roof-like things. And this kind of huge space can be created throughout out of the very simple way. And each individual room is characterized with this kind of window, which is naturally created by the inclination of the wall. I would like to introduce other type of thinking related to the pleats. This is the chair, and at this time I used the principle to create something like folded shape, pleated shape in the three-dimensional computer soft. And the part on which people sit down is very small, consists of very small pleats. And the structure part is not like that. So that we can get this kind of thing, like one species of the plants. And we realize it. This is the real photo. The material is plywood, layered 250 layers. And this is made for the art event in London, Frieze Art Fair. And this is not Photoshop. And this is bought by the Jordan princess. So now this work is in Jordan, in the Arabian country. And this time, the pleats principle was adapted into a chair, but the pleats is naturally made in the situation that we need a maximum surface in the limited space. And I think such kind of principle can be, of course, adapted into architecture, because architecture is something maximize the surface in the limited land. So I propose the same kind of thing in the architecture, which is situated in Taiwan. And this is the very luxury house, like 500 square meter for each house, and many bedrooms inside. And at that time, what was so dreamy is not only designing one house, but also designing one block after I designed this house. So I was required to make a design for as total 9 houses. So I intended to make something like family tree, and put it in the land and raise up into the certain shape, which is appropriate in each part. So the program was very complicated, but I divide these programs into 2, public and private, and then the surface dividing those 2 spaces into pleated state, so that we can get many branched out spaces like this. So the very complicated program, including maid room or the smoking room or something like that, I can make it very simple. And this is, of course, done in the very three-dimensional way, actually. And the real diagram is something like this. And when we make it pleated in the first pleats and the second pleats, this kind of relationship can can solve every relationship inside the house. That was what we found. So then such relationship into a certain geometry is making this kind of shape. So this looks like very natural or random, but the relationship of the rooms is really well organized. And the curvature is only created by cones. So it would be a little easier to make than to make a totally three-dimensional curvature. And for the space is consisted with this pleated shape. So the space is continuous in a way. So the public space is continuing from the first floor to the third floor, which makes really three-dimensional relationship inside the space. And 85% of the surface is flat surface. So it's gonna be a little easier to make it in concrete. Okay, and the next trial is in Tokyo. I also tried to adapt the same kind of principle, but in different way. In this time, I combined several different type of concept into one organized shape, and which is I create the boxes to form the main structure, and then make the opening like pleats, and then make the install the plants surrounding the pleats. Making boxes can it's makes easier for us to organize the programs, and then open the pleated opening, which can create the relationship between the human body. And then the plants comes on around the pleats. So these are the void space, like exterior. So the relationship is something like -3. So the whole space seems to be like breathing in the very urban situation. The space surrounded by the pleats is something like this. Or you can feel even in the inside the sunlight and the kind of wild situation. Okay, and this is another trial using same kind of principle, which is realized in last October. In this case, I use some mathematical shape, which is called high plane. Which is a special kind of triangle, very close to the accurate triangle. But accurate triangle can only make the flat surface. But this triangle naturally make the pleated shape because the if we how to say plus these angles, we get every time 378 degree, which is more than 360 degree. So the surface naturally makes this kind of shape. So with only the combination of the same triangular shape, we can create something like clouds. So we can have the space like this under the structure. This is what was happening in the factory. We created just two kinds of triangle shape, large triangle and small one, which is half of the large one. This is everything to create the pavilion. And these are the steel panel. Thickness is 1.6 millimeter. And weld it and combine it and carry to the site and combining in certain way. And this is the wall and the first pleats and second pleats, and then we get this kind of shape. This is the final thing. This is not the computer graphic. This is the real thing. It seems to be like paper, but in reality made of the steel. Original idea of the pavilion is coming from the idea when we did the competition in Mexico for the Contemporary Art Museum. And at that time, we make a huge main gallery at the center, like this. So we constructed the triangular wall, and from the triangular shape, we created this kind of pleated shape to prevent the direct sunlight coming into the exhibition space. So it becomes something like big cloud. What seems to be interesting for me throughout those processes making the pavilion, this time the competition, we just only use the pleated principle, but without thinking how to realize it. But in the pavilion case, which is has not so much cost, it should be very cheap. So we created the pavilion with cheap material and also the same shape, which makes it very easy to how to say organize the making process. So I hope that kind of thinking can be also adapted in the future to the bigger scale things like museum or whatever. Sorry. This is the other installation work in Milan, 2009 for Milano Salone. I designed the space for the Japanese company Canon. And Canon asked me to design the screen for the artist of this kind of projected things. So I decided to make some throughout the knot geometry. Knot is the ring which cross itself several times. And in between the knot, we can create very interesting Möbius ring-like things. So we studied it and decided to make 12 knot inside the interior space, and making it with a steel structure, and then put the elastic clothes in between. This is 20 meter and 10 meter, and the height is 6.5 meter. So it's kind of huge. And this structure is made using the 4 kinds of radius. And I combinating it and fold it to make a 12 times knot in a simple scheme, and make the elastic clothes in between, so we can get this kind of a very 3-dimensional structure. But it's made out of very simple process. These are every frames are 2-dimensional curvature, and combine it, and then install the elastic clothes using the fastener zipper. So we can very quickly make this kind of things. And you can feel the projected image not as an object, but as something environmental. And the next project is also designed for Canon in the next year for Milano Salone. And this was also the collaboration work with the artist. And at that time, I also created not flat screen for the projection, but something like spiral. And combining the spiral in 3-dimensional way with 12 projectors. This is the structure for the projection, which is standing itself. And every part of this structure can be lit by the projectors. So every part is consists of the light pieces. So this is something we can call the architecture of the light. And these kind of thinking, maybe some of you is very far from the usual building or the practice, but same kind of geometry can be adapted into a normal, but maybe not normal house. This is the house for one family in Tokyo. And I was requested to make a house in the very narrow site. And what we did is to create the columns in the very narrow site, and then make the stair-like things surrounding the columns. The reason why we use this kind of language is client wants to have something like slope or the stairs inside the space. And also, they need to have the continuous space, not like divided into first floor and second floor and third floor, but like a continuous big space for the families. So these stairs comes, and then every living element will be tangling on the stairs. And windows are opened just beside the stairs, which is sorry, something wrong with this image. Okay, so unfortunately we don't have the image, but these are the windows, and through the window we can see many kinds of scenery, like next house or the parking or the street or something like that. So we have many type of scenery along this kind of structure, which is almost like natural environment. These are the models, and recently the house has finished. And this was when the house was built, and this is the house with the books and people and etc. These are real habitants. So the space is carefully designed to contain each individual furnitures or kitchens or etc. So it seems to be like really free, but it's actually carefully designed. So you can feel the freeness, and also you can feel the you can enjoy the comfortable life, daily life. Okay. This is the practice in Taiwan recently going on, which is the hotel project in the hot spring part. And we were required to make something for the something like villa. And our analysis tell us that if we take the normal kind of thinking, we get this kind of result with closed area for each villa and the accesses, which is almost seems to be like a prison. So we decided not to make normal things, but to make this kind of setback of the wall. So the area decreased by this operation, but through the operation, you can have the very much benefit for each spaces in which you can see the many parts from one house, and also the common area is extended in a three-dimensional way. So everybody will have the benefit. And from the lobby, you can see this kind of scenery created by each volumes. And you use this kind of ship boat to access each villas. And from one villa, you can see the next villa, next villas. And this belt is part of the structure. So we have the walls here and there, and then we have this belt. This structure makes us to create these spaces without any columns. So this is the this wall is belonging to this house, and that is not belonging to this house, but you can see it from this house. So you can feel this spread from one house. Okay. This is another project going on in Taipei, which is also in Taiwan Island. This is the airport of Taipei, and this is the site. And in this case, we were requested to make something like village. So we decided to make not like very greedy volumes, but like this kind of fluid system. And analyzing the program, we can create this kind of corridor-like space. And using this volume, we make this kind of in-between spaces, which is consists of the stairs. This is the in-between spaces. So the interior is something like this. The stairs in the outside and the stairs in the inside seems to be like very equal, and the space look like very continuous in the interior. But in the exterior, the volume is divided into several individual volumes, so you can feel the village-like feeling, and also in the interior, huge space connected with each other. Maybe I can just skip this project. No? Okay, just shortly. This is a project in Kyoto, which was the competition, and I was second prize, unfortunately. And the Kyoto city is a traditional old city in Japan, and we were requested to design the library of old books or old records that the Kyoto city has. So we decided to make something indicating the Kyoto itself. And Kyoto, I think, is the grid made surrounded by the mountains. So this is the grid within the garden. And also in the grid, we have the many gardens. So I think Kyoto is garden within grid within garden. So I intended to make something like that. And out of the grid, I made this kind of volumes, and I make the garden covering the volumes. And also, I make the garden like big space under the volumes using this kind of scheme. This volume can create the shallow dome, which can enables us to make this kind of a huge space without any columns. And this space has its merit to create the energy, how to say, energy, how to say, environmental merit, and to save the power of the energy in a certain way, so we can make it make the space without any energy. How to say? Sorry, it's very, yeah. And also structurally, it is kind of like arch, and then put it in the underground. And we also, how to say, introduce how we can create on the site using the factories were made it prefabricated things. And the program is very simply solved. But program is actually really complex. But the scheme is so clear to solve such complex programs. And on the roofs, we have this kind of traditional or contemporary mixed kind of feeling of gardens surrounded by the mountains. Sorry. And I intended to use the pine tree, which is kind of traditional in Japan. Usually I wouldn't use this kind of language, but in this case I thought it was suitable. This is the last project, I promise. This is also the competition project in Taiwan. This is the Pop Music Center and the Maritime Culture Center. It is situated in Kaohsiung, in the south part of Taiwan Island. I think relationship between Taiwan and Japan is very similar to New York and this island. It takes from Tokyo to Taiwan, it's 3.5 hours. And maybe the position of the island is almost the same as this island. And the city is well known as its culture related to the ocean. And the site is a really important part of the city because the site is situated at the mouth of the river through the cities. And what we propose is to make in between the ocean and the land, I make something in between the liquid and the air bubble. And this bubble can create each individual programs in different ways. And such strategy can make island-like programs in between the ocean-like forms. So it's very similar to the relationship between the island in the Pacific Ocean. So I think this kind of relationship is very suitable in this program. And this horizontal shape is really huge comparing to other architectural heroes in our century or the ancient centuries. So actually, in the assignment, we were requested to make something like tower in the site, but we decided not to make anything like towers because the city already has its really tall tower, and also I think city is characterized by the relationship between the oceans. So I think it's going to be really nice to have the symbol of the ocean. So I intended to make horizontal symbol. And this horizontal symbol can create the natural kind of environment with the water flowing along the surface and or the flowing between the surface can create the microclimate like high pressure or very low pressure, so that we can make a network of the slight wind. and that makes it possible to make this area, whole area, the temperature lower than the other part of the city, like 2 or 3 degrees. And the interior is also made throughout the same bubble or form concept. This is the large auditorium, and this is the outdoor performance hall. And this is the area just besides the small performance hall, which is consists of a mixture of the natural trees and individual artificial urban-like things. And this is the exhibition area, and this is the studio, and the other exhibition area. And what is very unique is the bridge over the river. I think this place is really symbolic for this project, because this is the special point that the river, which is reflects the relationship between the land, meets the ocean. So this bridge can be, I think we should make the very symbolic bridge. But at the same time, I wouldn't like to demolish the good environment. So I choose not to make any columns under the bridge over 125 meters span. And also, I wouldn't like to prevent the wind going through the river. So I think this kind of form is suitable in this site. And people can go climb up to the observatory, or the people can ride on the bicycle through the bridges. Or here we have the small stairs, like Spanish stair. So I suppose almost every sightseeing people will come to this bridge and take the pictures. And I'd like to make something like that with contemporary architecture, because I think it's simply exciting. And we created several mock-ups to know how we can construct in the reality and make the real calculation using those simulations. And this is Photoshop. But fortunately, we have so many factories of the ship surrounding the site. So what we should do was just select several factories and carry it by the boat to the site. And that enables us, supposed to be enables us to make this kind of structure in lower price. And I think I was very certain that we can realize it. But again, we were second prize. Yes, and I think this huge structure can connect the city and the ocean in a very contemporary way. And I think the contemporary architecture can be something to create new relationship between the urban situation and the natural environment. Thank you.